Since James wants to sit out for a little while, I'll read some to him. Chris Work, Chris Beat Cancer. If you remember, I read the book and reviewed it earlier, and I didn't actually believe that it was that good. The thing is I do believe Ty Bollinger is doing good. At the end of this all, I will explain, I'll do a bigger review of the whole series that I'm talking about here. And I find if Chris Work felt like he needed to write a book and it made him feel empowered or whatever, okay. And I read it from the public library, so it did not cost me anything. But I think when people want to make money off of cancer, there's something wrong. I am doing all of this for free, and I am suggesting that everybody go out and do their research for free. So go to the public library, get the books you need, get whatever, if you need to upgrade your education so that you can actually read through books quickly like I do, or then go do that. I mean, you can take the Gale courses at the library for free. You can take the great courses right at home. If you're a person who's really uncomfortable, for a long time it was stressful for me to try to take the Gale courses because I was taking them at the public library because I don't have internet access at home and I don't want it. I'm perfectly fine with using the public library. My 2 hour, I get 2 hours a day to use the public library computers if I want to. Or, I mean, they don't make me use the 2 hours a day, that's my right. But that's enough, you know. I think that's good that they put the 2 hour limit on that, because people should not be sitting at a computer for more than 2 hours in a day, as far as I'm concerned. So that's good. But it was stressful for me at first because they've rearranged the computers there. But it's still, you're right beside strangers who are coughing and hacking or whatever, and
picking their noses.
They don't have, or singing because they're really stoned, whatever. And yeah, before it was louder though because it was a round table kind of, so people would sit. It was like sitting around a table and gabbing. So it was very loud. Like there were some people who I'd overhear them complaining to the people at the information desk. Well, why complain to them? This is not there. They work there, but they don't set up the systems. There's nothing they can do about it. So anyway, people would come and complain at them, and they'd be like, it sounds like a bar in here, you know, is this a library? And it's like, well, you know, libraries are changing. And anyway, but it was hard for me to concentrate for a while. I tried putting in earplugs and stuff like that to work for a while, and then I finally got used to the noise. Somehow my body blocked it out or whatever. I was focused on what I was reading, and that's fine. It worked out. But that might not be the first way to go for you, going to the public library to sit at the Gale courses. Maybe put some of the great courses on hold. A lot of them you'll have to put on through TAL, through the Alberta Library, and they'll come in, most of them from Edmonton, and they're great. You can sit in your home, or if you happen to have an internet connection at home, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you happen to have one, then you can access those right off the internet, if you go to the Great Courses website. So anyway, there's options. But I don't actually like it when I see people making money off of cancer in any way. It bothers me. It deeply bothers me. So when people write their book and they profit off of it, if you want to write a book to empower yourself and get the news out there or whatever, and like if I write a book, I will get no profit off of it. If I write books about cancer, I am not going to profit off it. It's going to go into some kind of something so that it's not me that's getting money, because it bothers me. Anyway, and I haven't written a book yet. I'm just doing the free blog, and this is working out great for me because I can put the information out. It's not costing me anything but time, and it's not costing anybody anything to get the information, so that's great for me. Not that anybody really looks at it, but a few people do. Right now I have 4 people, so hello 4 people, thank you for tuning in. If you watch this video, which you probably won't because they're long. Anyway, crispy cancer. So I've already commented on the book, but this is an interview with him, so that was on the Thai thing, so I'll read it. He started having abdominal pain. Sometimes he'd wake up and no pain, and then he'd get pain again over the course of the day. And I had troubles with this too. Like, when was that? It was after my, I was having pains before I had the tumor removed. And then I was still having pains, and I'm like, there's got to be something else in there because that's gone. And, you know, I'm still having pain. So what's going on, right? So anyway, but they said that the tumor, it was, at the time, my doctor said that it was a plum-sized tumor, and it was, a gynecologist took it out. It was a plum-sized tumor, and it was growing on the inside of my cervix and had forced my cervix open and was growing into my vagina. So it was unpleasant. The whole time that was there, believe me, every time I got my period, I knew, you know, I smelled like rotting death every time I got my period. So that was awesome. And I had to wear diapers because it would just all come out at once, basically, this horrible, anyway. And I went to my doctor before. This was a different doctor, not the gynecologist, and just family doctor. I went to the family doctor because my body had excreted in during my period a couple tumors. So they were little, and I was like, what's this? Like, it looked like kind of like hamburger, but bigger and smooth on the outside. And so I brought it in to the doctor, and the doctor said, oh, that's just fibroid, don't worry about that. And I wasn't worried about it because he was from South Africa and he actually had a brain. So I trusted him. So but then the tumor that I had, like, he'd never given me an exam. He probably would have noticed it. It's too bad that I didn't get him to do an exam but you know, you only do them every few years, and I wasn't up for one yet. And anyway, so I hadn't gotten to do that, so that he didn't catch it. But that it had been missed by people who were doing the exam before. And anyway, so the gynecologist who took it off, he said that it wasn't cancer. Well, I said, so did it test positive for cancer? And he said no. And then afterwards I'm thinking, I kind of asked the wrong question, because I've presumed that he's actually tested it for cancer, right? So his answer could still be no, and he might not have tested it. But I asked my current doctor, and she said that it was tested. It was two things were taken out, actually. So, and I don't know which was the plum-sized tumor, because that wasn't even, and I'd been given a blood transfusion. That wasn't even on the thing. So I don't know how much information is actually kept or changed according to, like, maybe one doctor wants to put things in, or they just leave it out, or whatever, and then or does it change along the way? Like, maybe with the our charts being now digital rather than paper, are they more subject to being at risk of being changed? Like, I don't know, right? It's nice to have
that happens a lot.
Yeah, it's nice to have
covering their hindquarters.
Exactly, it's nice to have a bit of a paper trail. And so, as a patient, you don't know what's happening. You go, okay, well, he said fibroid, but then my most recent doctor, who looked into the thing for me, she said it wasn't fibroid. Well, I'm thinking it was, or
someone's incompetent.
Something's going on, because I was told by him it was a fibroid, and the two tumors that came out on their own, and I brought into a doctor who actually had a brain and training from South Africa. He said they were fibroids. He wasn't worried about them. But, I mean, the one where it was in a very bad spot, and I don't know. It is stressful just thinking about having to go to the doctor when you know you have health problems, because you can't trust them. You don't know if they're going to even look for the right things. Like, half the tests that they've done on me, I've been like, this doesn't even, why do I need this test? This won't show anything to do with what I'm worried about, right? It's ridiculous.
I'd say that half the GPs out there, it's GPs, are scum, but that would be a falsehood. I don't like lying. It's 90% are scum.
Yeah, like in this video, they keep saying, oh, the people who get into becoming a doctor or whatever, they do it because they want to help people. And it's like,
they want to
really?
Help themselves
they
and
want
their families.
An
Those
income.
Are the
like maybe their families, because maybe some people are getting the decent treatments. I mean, I go in, the doctor from South Africa, he diagnosed bursitis in my shoulder, and he set me up right away. He got me in for an MRI in a week. I had the MRI right away, and he diagnosed it right away. And he was sending me to an orthopedic surgeon. Well, that took a long time to come through, and by that time I'd already moved back here when they called me up to set up an appointment, and I would have had to go way back up north. Well, I didn't want to go up north, and in hindsight I should have, but so I'm like, well, can you just change it? Like, I asked the secretary or whoever with the orthopedic surgeon there, I asked her, well, can you change it so that it's with an orthopedic surgeon up here? And she said, we can't do that. It'd have to come from the doctor who, I can't remember what she said, but
made the referral.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I'm like, well, I can't go back up north to go to him to then get a referral. This is ridiculous. So then I went to a new doctor here. Oh, well, he gets me for a new MRI. Well, I find out from my doctor I have now, they can access any of they can access it. She can get MRIs from that I've got done anywhere before.
He wanted to make money off ordering.
So I had to wait, not a week, I had to wait 8 or 9 months for that MRI, which I did not need. And when I went in to get that MRI, first the woman who took me at the desk, she said, well, we need to take you in for an x-ray. And I'm like, I'm not here for an x-ray. I'm here for an MRI. And she said, well, now we do an x-ray first. You're booked for an x-ray. And I said, I don't want an x-ray. I don't need an x-ray. I know what I have, and I need the MRI. And she said, like I said, why am I booked for an x-ray? This doesn't make any sense. And she said, we just do them now if you haven't had one done in a long time. And I'm like, what? But I got this x-ray done, and I'm like, why did I agree to do this x-ray? You know,
Did they even do an MRI?
Yeah, they did do the MRI, but they did it after. Like, I couldn't even get into the MRI until I did the x-ray.
You're supposed to wait in between functions.
And so right away, so I'm exposed to way too many rays right away, and unnecessarily. I didn't even need the MRI.
So was this, can we use the name?
No, I'm not using any names, but that doctor is awful.
Was his last name start with C?
Yes.
Yeah,
And anyway, when he did get the MRI back and he confirmed that, oh yeah, it's bursitis, then he said, well, we can fix that with cortisone. And I said, well, the other doctor recommended surgery. I'd like surgery. And I had already had a referral to an orthopedic surgeon. And I told him initially when I first went into him, I said, I need a orthopedic surgeon to get the bursitis. I've had an MRI and da. And anyway, so then he's putting me through all this, and he's like, well, you know, we can probably get rid of this with a cortisone shot, and you won't need surgery. So do you want to try that instead? And then, so I said, well, I guess I could try the cortisone shot, and then if it doesn't work, then I will get surgery. So, and he's like, okay. So I asked, well, how long will it take? And he said, you should notice about a week or whatever. So I get the shot, and he didn't tell me, he didn't refer me to the radiology associates, which apparently give the shot for free. Instead, I have to pay for this stuff so he can give me the shot out of the goodness of his heart, I guess, you know? So I go pay for the stuff, I bring it back to him, and he injects it in, and he's having a really hard time. He's wanting to suck the stuff out or something first, and then he's wanting to inject, and he's really cramming around, and it hurts. He's really getting in there. And he seems frustrated about it, but he puts that the whole amount in, and I had major problems after that. Anyway, after a week I said, well, it's not better, so can you book the surgery now? And he wouldn't. He said, I can give you another cortisone shot. So then I was like, this is ridiculous, you know. So I ended up getting another doctor, and the other doctor was like, yeah, I can give you a cortisone shot for that. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
you know.
that guy
So
was
it's
bad too.
yeah,
It wasn't
it's
as bad
very
as the first
frustrating.
guy, I don't think.
So I still haven't had proper treatment for my bursitis. I did have cortisone, which caused a whole bunch of other problems, but still haven't had treatment for the bursitis. I could have gotten it done had I went up north when I was supposed to. When the referral had went through to that orthopedic surgeon, I could have got it done, and I could have avoided a whole lot of problems caused by that stupid cortisone shot.
A warning to all you GPs out there. One of these days, we're going to turn litigious, and you are going to pay through the nose and every other orifice.
I'm not the kind of person that does that, but I am the kind of person that I make notes. I had an ex-boyfriend who'd say things, and then he'd say, I never said that. And so I started recording. And I started recording everything, because I'm the kind of person it's hard for me to communicate with people. I tend to be really timid, and I'll just go along with people say things to me. I'll be like, okay, you know, and that's fine. And but it's stressful for me, and so I tend to retreat back into my house because I just don't want to deal with the people.
9/10 of GPs aren't people. You are monsters. You stupid fake quacks.
But you can legally record any conversation you're a part of. Any conversation you are a part of, you can record.
I recommend doing it with
and I
doctors.
recommend it. So you have that information, and if you want to, you can definitely use it in court later on.
I recommend taking a witness. I recommend taking notes.
Not a witness that necessarily, like James. I work well as a witness for James because I listen very well. But if you don't have anyone, you always have a little tape recorder. And you'll see notes up in the doctor's offices now that they want to turn off cell phones to respect privacy and this and that. What they're doing, why they're putting that there, is not because they want to respect other patients' privacy. Or that they're bothered by cell phones ringing, or that they're worried about the EM radiation or whatever. They don't care about any of that. They don't want you recording them or putting you on a phone with a lawyer, say, while they're in the office talking to you. So don't use your cell phone to record. You can I have a little, I have one that's more modern, but I have a recording device that is battery powered, and you can go get rechargeable AA batteries for your old recorder that runs on tapes, which you can go buy secondhand tapes really easily for like nothing, 10 cents at MCC. And you can record, you can have the information forever. And so you know that you're not crazy. When somebody tells you that you have, say, 3 degenerated discs, and then all of a sudden you go to another doctor and they say you have 2, and then you can play back your old recordings and say, oh yeah, they did tell me I had 3. So you don't know whether you have 2 or you have 3, but you know that you were told a specific thing. So it gives you some peace of mind. Okay, back to crispy cancer. So, he would have abdominal pain, and sometimes it would go, and then it would come back, and anyway, he thought he had an ulcer, but it turned out he had a golf ball-sized tumor in his large intestine. He had stage 3C. It had spread to lymph nodes. Stage 3 typically means it has spread to nodes. Stage 3 typically, means it's spread to the lymph nodes. So, and that's another thing that I've worried about, because in my armpit here, like, I think it's my lymph node, but I don't know. It's gotten quite large, and so I went to my doctor last year, and she had me go to the radiology associates for an ultrasound to see what it was. And the technician, she's quite young, and she's looking around for it, and I can't find anything. And so she calls up somebody on the phone, and she says that she can't find anything. Should she do another test? And then she excuses herself from the office that she was looking at me in, and she goes out, and then she comes back in, and she says, no, you can go. So I guess I didn't need another test. So then I go back home, and I'm thinking, okay, well, they didn't find anything, but obviously, I mean, this lump is getting quite large now. And so the whole time, so this is what started my stress, was last spring around this time, and nothing happened. I still have this tumor of some kind, and I don't know what it is. Anyway.
What should be started? The hashtag #MeToo thing has nailed a lot of nasty guys. But there's a lot of nasty guys and gals too, actually, wearing lab coats. I call them butcher smocks. So there's 9/10 of the GPs out there. I'd like to see hashtag #MeToo movement done with doctors, because you cannot touch them, especially here in Canada. And I'd like to see some of these people out sweeping streets and swabbing out toilets, because actually they're not even worth putting to work doing that sort of stuff, but it would get them out of clinics and hospitals and things like that. They have to be gotten rid of. They have to be eliminated.
Stage 4 means it's in another organ. So with him, they got it out entirely with surgery, and they got clear margins. They wanted to do 9 months chemo. They cut out 18 inches, 1/3 of the large intestine. First meal they served him in the hospital was a sloppy Joe. And he was just like, this does not seem right. Like, he wouldn't want to eat a sloppy Joe any day. And they just removed like a huge amount of his large intestine, and they're giving him a sloppy Joe, and he just felt this is wrong. And so he went to a raw food diet anyway, which I think is the best way to go. So he went raw food, and he says it's a very strong detox diet. On a raw food diet, your body's immunity becomes so strong that it'll kick out the chemo. He has already made it 10 years without treatment. The oncologist had lied to him and said that with treatment 60% of patients live in 5 years. But it turned out that that's the average of all cancers with treatment.
Not his particular.
Not his. His was only 30% of his would make it to 5 years with treatment. The average oncologist makes $290,000 a year, but when surveyed, they say they are unsatisfied with income. So they want even more.
Wow.
He mostly drank.
My oncologist, I don't have too much.
We make a total of $18,700 a year for the two of us. We're living off of James's.
You don't hear us whining and complaining terribly much about it. So they'd make more than 10 times that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, that's James's pension for being a janitor. And part of that, he was when I knew him, he was he was working in the winter as a janitor for the public
Operation.
workers for public operations. So he was not only a civil servant, but he was a servant of the civil servants.
I guess.
So that made me love you even more. Anyway,
I don't ask for a lot of money for doing janitorial. It doesn't involve a lot of education, and it doesn't involve a lot of responsibility. But doctors out there who refuse to take responsibility and don't use their education, they should get being paid. But I used to get paid $40,000 a year because they're not. Well, they're not even doing the job. I used to swap out toilets and stuff like that. They should be getting paid zero. Fact is, most of them should be sued, have their socks sewed off of them, and be forced to work off whatever else they can't pay. But what would you put them to work at? They're useless.
he mostly drank carrot juice and ate huge salads. Berries are potent anti-cancer foods, 100% raw food for 90 days. Cancer is the product of a sick body. Cancer is a symptom. The only permanent cure to cancer is your immune system. Amp up your immune system to fight your cancer. If you believe you're fighting cancer, you believe you need to suffer through it. If you don't, so you don't need to suffer. Nutrition doesn't make you suffer. Trauma care is where our medical system is at its best. Smoking number 1, obesity number 2 cause of cancer. Stress raises them to cope. Raises adrenaline and cortisol to cope. Our adrenaline and cortisol are immune suppressants. So keep in mind, I was given cortisone when I was at a huge amount of stress. This was just after James came through stem cell therapy, and I had just had a tumor, literally just had a tumor removed, and I was given cortisone. So my immunity was suppressed. Cortisol tells your liver to dump sugar into your bloodstream and gives you energy, nervous energy. But then we get sugar cravings to replenish that energy. And that winter, like, I never craved sugar. That winter, I went through Mike and Ike's. I must have eaten a bucket of them. Like, so many Mike and Ike's that winter. It was ridiculous. And anyway, we'll see how I go. But this is why the term comfort food was coined. People who are stressed seek high sugar foods. Glycogen, which is glucose. When we're afraid, stressed, we make bad choices. 90 to 95% plant-based diet. He does eat some cleaner meat sources. He eats non-GMO and organic food. But he'd went through that 90-day raw vegan kind of cleanse. So now he's back onto eating some meat. And he still looks great and healthy. So it's something to think about.